Hello and welcome back to episode 10 of the Font Forecast. We are now in double figures already. Can you believe it? My name is Mike Owens. I'm joined by that man over there, one of the baddest men on the planet, number 8, seventh ranked UFC bantamweight Rob Font. Rob, how are you, my friend?
I'm great, bro. Great, great. We're at episode 10. So, obviously everything's going smooth. It's always good to see that face. How you doing?
I'm good. That's you're awful complimentary. Someone must have had a bout agreement come through the door.
We finally got that bout agreement. Everything's all good, man. I got my boy Mike here. I got the contract. I got the location. Got the opponent. I can't complain over here.
No, it's going to be good. How many weeks are we now? Is it?
And I got to take my daughter to a swim lesson today. So today's good, man. It's a good day.
Life's good. Life's good on a Tuesday. Now what are we? 6 weeks on Saturday from the fight. We got about 7 weeks to go.
Yeah. 7.5 weeks. So it's like quite enough time. We've been training already. We had this fight in mind anyway, so we've been getting after it. But it's official now. We got the contract. Everything's good, and ready to rock.
What's your favorite part of camp? Is there a specific point where it's like, you're in really good shape, everything's going well? What is the favorite part for you?
Favorite part of camp, I would say, just seeing the progress. Seeing like Tyson or whoever we're working with, or obviously even in the conditioning part, like kind of like setting a number and actually reaching that number, or working on like say back control and actually seeing my progress of going from decent to getting better to like, okay, man, this is getting real good, and I think like it's always been that for me, really seeing the progress, seeing the build, of okay, let's put this piece together with that piece, just reach out to this guy to bring in this person, and then just kind of like tinkering and seeing that final product. But I guess it would say just being more finding that, getting creative and finding that final product would be the best part. Obviously, the sparring is always hard. The grind is always rough. The driving's, it's always there, but that's kind of like what comes with it. But to kind of get creative, put something out there, talk about it, and see it come to fruition is just like the best part.
No, I couldn't agree more. On the first week of camp, do you feel unfit, or are you one of those guys who 24/7 is always in
So it's more of
relative
like
condition?
it's not necessarily more about the first week of camp. It's more of like the first week after a fight, like kind of like getting after the fight, kind of hanging out, not fighting, training, recovering from whatever, and then obviously hanging out and then getting back to that week's always a little tough. And then by then I'm usually in a groove. Not as far as like sparring, but like, but I'm in the groove just moving. So it's not the worst of like say once you get that contract, like it's not the worst, especially if you got the heads up, it's not official. We usually have 2 3 weeks. But yeah, it's more like that first 2 3 days coming back from like a fight and just kind of taking time off and partying here and there, and just damn, that first 2 days are rough, man. But it feels great after you do it. Like even on those days, you drive the drive home is like the best feeling in the world. You can put your head down like, all right, I don't feel like a bum anymore. Today went smooth, everything went good, and and you suffer a little bit, but
Yeah.
uh,
No, I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Well, anyway, enough about you. You're fighting off for a few weeks. We've got fights to preview. You can
it's tough.
stop being selfish and talking about yourself. We've got this UFC main event we're going to talk about between Sean Strickland and Abu Magomedov back at the Apex, 1st of July. Rob, it's a bit of a strange booking. I've got to be honest. We've got number 7 ranked Strickland fighting an unranked guy on it's just his second UFC appearance. What do you actually make of the fight, first and foremost?
A boost, man. Like it's not much obviously on him. He's fought for PFL. He seems real tough. The fight that he did have is like it's real quick. He's in and out. He seems aggressive. It's pretty cool that he gets a main event. So I'm assuming the UFC must know something that everybody else doesn't know.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
you know obviously you got Sean Strickland. He's a dog, man. He has that kind of shoulder roll defense. He's been in 5 round wars, been in 5 round fights. He's been in the main event before. He's in Vegas. He's home. He's fought the tougher competition on paper, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
He's busier. I believe Boots hasn't fought in like I don't know how long, like almost like a 2 year, right? Almost like 2 years.
He had
Since last
the he had the debut. I can't remember when the debut was. I thought that was pretty recent. I think that was on the UFC Paris card in September. Memory
Okay.
serves. So it wasn't
Yeah,
too
but
far
he's
away.
definitely active, Strickland, so that kind of like worries me. But it's kind of like he has but he also has experience too outside of the UFC. So
Yeah.
it's a tough fight. It's you know, you instantly hear that last name Magomedov, you're kind of like, like, well, you gotta
Mm.
assume he's a wrestler, and obviously he seems like he does wrestle. Um, it's just more of like, can he handle the pressure of Sean Strickland? Like, can he handle that constant pressure he brings? Um, and then if he does throw, like Sean Strickland's real smooth at not getting hit and then countering. So can he handle the pressure? And then when he does kind of come forward, does he get clipped with something coming in? It's tough, man. This was hard for me. I don't know too much about this
We
guy.
don't we've got an unknown commodity on our hands. We don't know what
Yeah,
we're dealing with in
I
Magomedov.
I didn't really watch too many of his PFL fights, and it's you know it's hard. It's a hard pick for me. I want to instantly say my gut feeling says Strickland's going to kind of win out a decision. He's hard to finish. He has way more experience. He'll be home. He'll be comfortable. Um, you know, it, it, but then you got to look at like this guy. If he can get off in the first 2 rounds, and again, it's hard on Strickland. And like, does he finish his fight? Can he grab a single or a double and put him down and ride this out? Um, I just don't. I don't think he's been acting enough. I don't think he's fought that competition that Strickland has. I just don't. I don't see it happening. I think if he doesn't knock out Strickland in the first 2 rounds, Strickland skates away with the decision pretty easily.
Talk about Strickland for a second because you categorize yourself as a boxer. You talk about your boxing pedigree. Everyone knows what you can do with the hands. Strickland's very similar. I think you've got different styles. You're more of an offensive boxer. He's more of the defensive style. So talk to me about what you see of Strickland's actual boxing style. Like what is the secret to his success?
I think he's calm. I think he's patient. He's not in a rush.
Mm.
He's real good with that shoulder roll defense, where he's kind of like he's confident just staying right there and just barely making you miss. He understands range. He's real long with his jab. Um, and then when he needs to get out, he just gets out. He'll walk off and not even be in range to get hit. So everything's sharp on the basics. Especially with that shoulder roll defense, it's hard to stand there and
Mm.
just in small gloves and be that confident and just being like, and he does it. He has great eyes. He can see it. And it's like it's a constant pop 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 pop. It's not that just big winging booming like kind of like swinging type of combination. So it has that boxing feel, that boxing rhythm. And it's pretty nice to see, man. It's like I said, like I don't think he gets enough credit for his striking. Obviously everybody would love to see more finishes, but if I think you throw some gloves on him, he'll put on an entertaining boxing match as well.
Mm. It is a strange one with Strickland though because he does talk differently to the way he fights. Like we all see these sparring videos where he's sparring. Like I saw the one yesterday where he was sparring a troll outside of Extreme Couture, and he gets him in the cage in the gym, and he's sparring with him. But then he fights this almost defensive first style. Like
Yeah,
he's very good at keeping himself safe in there. And I'm not saying you should take punishment for taking punishment's sake, but it is a bit of a strange dynamic that Sean Strickland the person, Sean Strickland the fighter.
yeah. I don't know. I guess it's like more he gets a little wiser when he gets in. I don't know. Like it's
Mm.
like if he gets in there and he is a little more defensive first, saying, some of the best boxers, that's the way they kind of approach it. It's kind of defense first, and then countering from there. Um, I would love to see him kind of like play all three, kind of like go first, make it miss, and then counter.
Mm.
I love seeing that. I love seeing that put together. I think if you get that, like it'll be more of a, I think I would say you might find more finishes that way,
Yeah.
but it's tough, man. He's fighting tough competition. He's fighting the top all the time. It's hard to finish these fights. So but yeah, man. Like it's funky to see these videos you see pop up, and it's kind of like that's not the same guy, man. Like it's like
Mm.
what's going on? Like is he like who made him mad? Like what's going on? Like what's going on in those sessions where like he's just like talking, like coming forward, hands down a little bit, bigger punches, less defense. So Yeah, we gotta talk to Eric about that one, man.
No, we have 100%, 100%. Had a bit of a rough end of 2022 when you think about it. He had the loss to Pereira, then the split to Cannonier. I think him bouncing back against Imavov was a massive win, especially on, I think, 6 or 7 days' notice, because I think Imavov's a real top prospect in that division. And I think ultimately the fact that this fight was 3 rounds, I would be more confident in picking Magomedov. But the fact that it's 5, and we've seen Strickland go 5 against Cannonier, against Jack Hermansson, against Imavov, I think this has got a Sean Strickland defensive counter-striking masterclass written all over it.
I'm agree with you. I agree with you 100%. Do you know who the favorite in this fight is?
I checked the odds, so Strickland is -125. Magomedov is about +110. So the bookmakers are very respecting Magomedov as someone who we don't know too much about.
Yeah, it's tough.
But as you said a second ago, the UFC are putting him in main event, so they must have seen something, because if Strickland goes out there and steamrolls him, then it'll look like terrible matchmaking. Why do you give a guy with one UFC fight a top 10? So the UFC must know what they're doing. I think I can only presume.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that I think the UFC knows what they're doing. They got something up their sleeve. But yeah, if he doesn't, I think if he doesn't pull it off in the first 2 rounds, like you said, the 5 round, I like him in the 5 rounds. I like his defense to stay sharp and disciplined throughout the 5 rounds, and I think the way he moves is the later the fight goes. I think he finds more openings, and we'll see though.
Yeah, 100% agree. Co-main event. This is, in my opinion, one of the best matchups you can make in the UFC lightweight division. Excuse me. You've got 24-2 Damir Ismagulov against 19-1-1 Grant Dawson. These are guys who've only lost 3 fights of, I believe, about 40 fights. So really high level guys. What do you make of these two? This is a little bit of a style contrast. What do you make of this fight?
This is interesting. Grant Dawson, man, he's kind of like real like sharp and basic with the striking, and get straight to a takedown. I love the way he moves the single. He's constantly moving. He gets on top, and he's just like a big blink. He's just real heavy. He's constantly looking for the back. Solid ground and pound. The moment you get back up, he's back down. Solid low kicks, calf kicks, and a good jab. He's training at ATT, so I feel like he has a lot of training partners. He's got a lot of experienced guys out there too. So he's gonna have a lot of good coaching, a lot of good mentoring. It's not I would say the quickest and fastest and the most technical, I guess you would say, or explosive, but it's efficient. It gets it done. He gets to where he wants to be, gets to his spots, and does what he wants as far as the takedowns. With Damir, man, it's gonna be a little harder though, because he's got such more such better footwork than Grant. I think he's gonna be quicker. I think he's gonna control the range a little better.
The jab's going to be key for Ismagulov, isn't it?
For that jab, he's gonna control the range. Better than most of the guys Grant Dawson has fought. So it's definitely a tricky fight. But Damir doesn't finish fights either. It's just kind of odd. I think, you assume the way he throws and looks and that experience, he would have a lot more power. But then I think you got to give Grant more of the power, because it's like he doesn't finish fights standing or on the ground with submissions or ground and pound. So it's you got the finisher, but then you got it seems like the more technical. Even his wrestling, man, Damir's wrestling was real good. Like, it's gonna be hard to take him down. If he does get taken down, it's not like he just gives up his back. So I've been going back and forth on this one for a while, because it's kind of like it seems like Damir should outclass him and kind of move on him and make him miss a lot on the standing. But then it's kind of like how involved is he? Didn't he just retire not too long ago? So it's like how involved and how much does he want this fight? So it's like that kind of gets me thinking. But if I had to put money on it, I want to say I think it'll be a tough first round. Grant might get a takedown, might get close to get him into the cage, might put him up, and then after that, I think Damir just kind of moves picks and chooses when he wants to throw, adds in a couple of kicks here and there, and just kind of like you know, skates away with a decision on this one. But it's interesting. I do believe if Grant gets on top and in a good position, you know, like a dominant position, he can get in a lot of trouble. But I don't think if it's not a clean takedown and he's struggling for a for the takedown and he has to pass and all that, it's going to be a lot harder for him to kind of keep him there.
I completely agree. I think I completely agree. I think Grant Dawson, one thing I'll say about Grant Dawson is he gets a lot of third round finishes. He seems to get those finishes in the third where he outwills people. Think of like the Jared Gordon, Mark Madsen, even Leonardo Santos. I think he finished him in the last second. So I think if there's a finish, I think you're completely right. It will be on the Dawson side rather than Ismagulov side. But it's one of those like technical versus physical matchups. I think Ismagulov is the much more technical fighter. He's got that Gennady Golovkin style to him with the super powerful jab, the perfect footwork, the ins and outs, all of that. And I think he's got 92% takedown defense, something crazy like that. So he's in some ways a lot more technical. But Grant Dawson's just a powerhouse. He's just going to be coming non-stop. I spoke to Grant the other day, a couple of weeks ago, and he said, look, I know that on the feet, I'm nowhere near Ismagulov's level. And I've got to get inside and I've got to force those wrestling exchanges. So the fact that he's aware of that and he knows that he needs to do that makes him more dangerous. But I think Grant Dawson will always be one of those fighters who will kind of be discounted and people will kind of bet against. And I think with a 19-1 record, history shows you probably shouldn't. But with that being said, I think he's going to the technique's just going to be too much on the Ismagulov side. I think Ismagulov gets back on the train.
Yeah, it's a tough fight, man. It's just a tough fight. It's you know, like but the thing about Grant, he'll keep going for the takedowns.
Exactly.
He's nonstop. He'll keep going. And I do believe he just needs one solid one and landing in great position and where he's not scrambling the whole time. I think he'll get to that half guard. He'll get to that back and he'll make him work and work and work. And he needs to finish. But if it doesn't happen, he gets into these scrambles. I think Damir's, you know, his wrestling's just as good. He pops up and his footwork is real sharp. So that's how Grant gets to the takedown. It's going to be the major factor for him. But that's another great fight. It's just going to be interesting. The only thing that does really worry about me is like I said, is like how bad was the injuries? Why did he retire? You know, like what is he like really going through? So it's kind of like, you know, like gets me thinking, man.
No, it's a really interesting point. I always think those really short-lived retirements are pretty interesting because that says to me that you're going through a bit of inner turmoil or there's something in your life that you need to solve, but you're trying, you know, you're stopping your career to solve that. Or it signals to me, as you say, that you maybe want one foot out the door. I don't know what the actual circumstances was. The fact that he retired after about a 15-fight winning streak off his first loss to Alman Sarukian, that doesn't bode particularly well. The other point to mention on this fight is both Dawson and Ismagulov have spent time at ATT this camp. So there's going to be moles and spies in that camp and people in each other's ears saying do this and do that and coach division. So it's a very interesting. I know that happens a lot at ATT because the gym's so big, but it is another interesting factor to consider.
It seems like Damir fights everybody from ATT, man. Everybody got it out for him. Oh man, that's awesome. That's funny, man. Another great fight. I think I'm going Damir decision. I want to see more finishes from him though. I feel like it should be there. It's like he has all the skills, it just doesn't happen. But again, he's also fighting obviously all the tough guys too. But I do want to see a finish from him.
And you know, it shouldn't come into it, but if you don't speak English, you need to get those finishes to get to the bigger fights in the division. You're just simply not as marketable if you're either not getting the finishes or not talking on the mic. It's just one of those things, isn't it? Unfortunately, the way the sport goes.
Yeah, that's true. Get out there, get a finish, Damir. Let's go.
Last fight I wanted to highlight because the Motown Phenom is back. Kevin Lee is making his return to the UFC. Former interim title challenger, Kevin Lee. But one, he's on the prelims. Two, he's at 170. And B, he's fighting Rinat Fakhretdinov. And is a massive underdog versus Rinat, who's just 2-0 in the UFC. What do you make of the whole Kevin Lee situation? Because at one point I really thought he was going to be a top contender, maybe even a champion, but it just feels like something's not quite there.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's like a mental, personal thing. I think that's going on with him. Obviously, I don't know. I personally don't know him. It's tough because like he has seen that he has obviously has a great background with the wrestling. He's explosive. He's quick. He's great counters, heavy punches, great kicks. Another thing he trained. Seemed like he trained a lot with a lot of different gyms, a lot of different people. It seemed like he was in for a few. He was out there with Faraz. Obviously, I think he's Dewey Cooper.
Yeah.
I think he's out there in Florida now, so
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
does
Cliff.
bounce around, which is I think good and bad. Like I think I love learning from different people. I love training with different people. Then it's like, but sometimes you can kind of get distracted and get pulled in different directions. But again, I don't know what's going on with him. And then obviously he loses I think his last two UFC fights, Charles Oliveira, then he gets Daniel Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Goes fights for Eagle, for Eagle AFC, fights Diego Sanchez, and it's just Diego Sanchez. He didn't look the worst, but it's like he's also dealing with like some knee issues too. And
Yeah, Torres
like,
ACL.
yeah, so it wasn't like, it was kind of like the fight was kind of like a little rough, rough to watch, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And then so it's like, and then he's fighting at 170. He did have weight issues at 55, but he's fought everybody. He has a lot of experience. He's I think with all that being said, I think there's just like some personal or mental things that's going on with him because he has all the skill set, he has all the knowledge as far as like training with all these people, and he obviously has the back end. Saying the UFC they like him. They obviously didn't cut him and bring him back for no reason. They like him.
A lot of main events too for Kevin Lee under his belt. He had about 4 or 5 main events under the UFC. So yeah, he was one of those guys that they used for those when the UFC was the traveling circus. It was in a different city every week. He was a staple of those main events.
Yeah, so it's kind of like they like him. For a while, I thought he was going to be the champ at 55, and it's just him. So he just never really kind of like got it together and kind of just. But it is what it is. He's fought the best. He's back. And he's got a tough fight. I can't even pronounce this guy's name. Rinat. How you pronounce it? Rinat.
Fakhretdinov.
Rinat Fakhretdinov. Yeah, man. This guy's dangerous. He's tough. He seems pretty. Like he seems like he knows exactly what he wants to do. He gets to those takedowns, gets on top, and just rinse, repeats, and just keeps doing it. Not that much UFC experience. But it seemed like he has power. He has in both hands. He seems like he has basic defense. Definitely has a lot of experience, but not in the UFC. And I think it's gonna be too much. I think it's gonna be when he gets on top. I think he's gonna have better cardio when it comes to the grappling exchanges. I think he's gonna keep it real basic. He's gonna get right in his face and get to that takedown and make Kevin Lee work. I think Kevin Lee definitely gets a lot more time when he has to grapple and then I do believe if Kevin Lee gets taken down, he's not the most craftiest off his back as far as up submission, as far as triangles and all that. So I think it's gonna be a tough night for Lee, man. I hate to see it, but I think it's gonna be a tough one for him.
No, I think I agree. I think this is Renat's fight to lose, just with all the inner turmoil and all the things going on with Kevin Lee. But there's 2 things I'll say about Kevin Lee. One, I think he was the perfect candidate for when the UFC was rumored to make a 165 division. I think he would have been the perfect candidate for that. I think he's just too small for welterweight and slightly too big for lightweight. So that's one thing I'll say. Second thing I'll say is I completely agree about what you were saying about the changes of gyms. I think maybe going out and getting new looks is a good thing, but moving from gym to gym, camp over camp, even I think he moved from Extreme Couture to Kill Cliff in between camps. So that's a bit of a strange one. The third thing I'll say is it says a lot about the UFC matchmaking that we've got Kevin Lee and Sean Strickland, 2 big names, up against 2 Russians or Eastern Europeans, nobody's really heard of, who've only had 3 fights in the UFC between them. It says maybe where the UFC is looking in terms of the top talent and who they want to kind of push through.
And I think this is a perfect opportunity for Rinat, because it's like, yeah, Kevin Lee has that name. You think a lot of people are gonna forget, and then they're gonna hear, oh, Kevin Lee's fighting, oh, and then it's gonna be like, oh yeah, like they're gonna remember what he did, and then they're gonna kind of remember what he didn't do, and then they're gonna kind of like, and then Renat goes out there and gets a big W. They're gonna be pushing him, but it's kind of like it just sucks, because like Kevin Lee, he seems like he has all the tools, man. It's like, so I do hope he comes out there and give us one of those like Gillespie type knockouts, and like, shut up, everybody shut up, all you guys just shut the fuck up and just watch me do my thing. I do hope that. I just don't see it.
No, I completely agree. Completely agree. There you have it.
Yeah,
There,
that's probably my favorite knockouts too, man. He came with the right hand, lead left kick, and just put him out, man. It was beautiful.
very quickly before we finish, what's your favorite knockout? What comes to mind when I say favorite knockout? Boxing, MMA, anything?
Oh man, favorite knockout. Man, I was gonna be cheesy, man, but I think it was
Don't
one
you
of my
dare say Yanis. Don't you dare say Yanis.
no, it was one of my what I'm saying, it was one of my one of my local fights, man. One of my first ones, I hit this kid with uppercut, and I got addicted to uppercuts, man, and just started throwing from there. But it was so clean. It was the first one, and it was like, oh man, I actually got some power. Like, let's go. But yeah, no, I'm saying, I love everybody. I love everybody's fights. I love everybody's highlights, but I got to stick with my own on this one.
I love that. I love that. I think mine would be Thomas Hearns versus Roberto Duran.
Okay.
Remember that double jab to the body with the overhand right.
Right there, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, no, so many from boxing to Muay Thai to obviously MMA. It's so many. It's crazy, man. It's like, I actually watched a lot of Terrence Crawford's highlights, and it's like, it's man, some of these fights, some of these guys are just so many levels to this, and like the highlights it's intense, man.
100%. Well, we'll leave it there. There is your weekend's breakdown of this action in MMA. A little bit of a lighter card as we return to the Apex, but I think we've highlighted the three main fights that you should keep your eye on. Main event between Sean Strickland and Abu Magomedov. Co-main, Damir Ismagulov, Grant Dawson, and that featured fight on the prelims between Kevin Lee and Rinat Fakhretdinov. Rob, always a pleasure, my man. As always, if you got this far, make it sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll hand over to you for the final word.
Guys, please, like you said, like, subscribe, and share. We'll keep you guys updated with these picks, with these recaps, and yeah, man, great seeing you, bro. Episode 10, bro.